The air feels heavy, as though the atmosphere itself is holding its breath. Somewhere in the silence, a shimmer ripples against the edge of perception, a glimmer that is neither light nor shadow, but something caught between. It is a threshold, fragile yet vast, inviting and terrifying. This image becomes the first whisper of the story, a portal standing between what was and what could be. Humanity has always sensed its presence, though rarely has it been given a form. It exists in our myths, in our dreams, in the haunted corners of memory. It is a doorway that does not swing on hinges but instead on the very fabric of reality, hinting that another chapter waits on the other side. For as long as human beings have lifted their eyes to the stars or stared into the flames of campfires, we have been haunted by questions that reach beyond the tangible. What lies past the horizon of time? Could there be unseen corridors leading from the known world to the unknown? Each culture has shaped its own answer, and yet a thread connects them all: the longing for passage, the fear of stepping across, the wonder of what might be revealed. These are not merely abstract curiosities, they are part of the human condition. To be human is to feel the tension of two forces, the comfort of the past that grounds us and the allure of the possible that pulls us forward. The portal embodies both. Cinematic imagery flows easily when we imagine it. Picture a lone traveler standing before an archway of stone carved by centuries of wind, glowing faintly under a full moon. On one side, the familiar landscape stretches, villages, firelight, stories told and retold. On the other side, an endless expanse pulses with light that shifts like liquid. The traveler hesitates, heart pounding, as questions rise: will I find the future I long for, or vanish into chaos? This tension, this single heartbeat of indecision, is the essence of the portal mythos. It is not only a doorway in space, it is a mirror of every choice we face. The human mind, restless and daring, has always been drawn to these thresholds. There is a deep contradiction at play. We crave the certainty of what we know, yet we are irresistibly drawn to the mystery of what we do not. This contradiction fuels both our terror and our triumphs. The portal becomes a symbol of that duality, the threshold between the known and the unknown, safety and danger, past and future. Even in modern times, where the language of science often replaces the language of myth, the same longing persists. Physicists bend over equations not only to describe the universe but to pierce its veils. Writers craft stories not merely to entertain but to gesture toward possibilities that escape the grip of ordinary life. The shimmer of the portal continues, even if we no longer call it by name. And yet, why does this image hold us so powerfully? Perhaps because the portal promises escape from the tyranny of time. The past, with its weight of regret, lingers in us like a shadow. The future, with its open uncertainty, taunts us like a mirage. A portal, if real, would allow us to break free from the linear prison of before and after. Imagine standing in the present moment and watching as doors unfold to both what has already been lived and what is yet unborn. The possibility stirs awe, but also dread. Would stepping through undo the threads that bind us? Or would it reveal a truth too immense for our fragile minds? The cinematic stage is set not only with imagery but with emotion. Awe glows like fire, yet it is tempered by the cold touch of fear. The shimmer that first seemed inviting now carries the weight of danger. What if the threshold is not meant to be crossed? What if it is a mirror, showing us our own hunger for more than the present moment can offer? The emotional pull lies in the tension, between revelation and destruction, between salvation and ruin. Every story about portals is, in truth, a story about ourselves, about the risks we are willing to take in pursuit of what lies beyond. From the beginning of history, we have framed these questions in every language we know: art, science, philosophy, myth. Each approach tells us something different, but none gives us certainty. The portal remains elusive, always just beyond reach. It is a symbol of both possibility and impossibility. The awe of its presence compels us to imagine stepping through, even when we know we may never find it in physical form. Perhaps that is the secret: its reality lies less in stone or energy than in our imagination. It is a metaphor as much as a mystery, a doorway we carry within ourselves. As the opening act of this story unfolds, we are left suspended between curiosity and caution. The portal glimmers but does not yet reveal what lies beyond. It dares us to follow, whispering promises of transformation while cloaked in uncertainty. The first glimpse leaves us unsettled, caught between the echo of what has already passed and the luminous question of what might yet be. And so the journey begins, not with an answer, but with an invitation. For the threshold does not exist out there alone, it exists within us, in the very tension of being alive. The portal waits, asking the only question that truly matters: will we step forward, or remain in the safety of what we know. Darkness flickers against stone walls. Imagine an ancient cavern, its ceilings dripping with moisture, its walls marked by hands that lived 30,000 years ago. In the glow of flickering firelight, the shadows of animals seem to leap and dance. But alongside these familiar images, bison, horses, deer, there are strange shapes, circles, spirals, archways carved into stone. Were they merely symbols of fertility and hunting magic? Or were they humanity's earliest sketches of portals, gateways into other realms? This is where our story dives next, into the shadows of the past, where myth and memory intertwine, and where humanity first whispered of doors between worlds. From the earliest civilizations, humans carried within them a haunting suspicion that the world was not complete, that behind its solid surface lay other dimensions waiting to be revealed. Ancient myths often described secret thresholds hidden in plain sight. The Babylonians spoke of cosmic gates guarded by spirits. The Egyptians envisioned doorways through which the soul must travel after death. Each myth shimmered with imagery of passage, a movement from the known into the unknown. And each culture framed the threshold differently, sometimes as a place of judgment, sometimes as a place of promise, sometimes as a trap. Take the Egyptians, for instance. Their Book of the Dead unfolds like a travel guide for the soul, describing gates, guardians, and passwords one must master to pass into eternity. Imagine the scene, a tomb chamber lit by oil lamps, priests chanting while a scroll is unrolled beside a freshly embalmed body. On the papyrus, ink drawings show doorways watched by fearsome beings with animal heads. The message is clear: death itself is a portal, and only those who understand its trials may pass safely through. It is both terrifying and hopeful, terrifying in the punishments awaiting the unprepared, hopeful in the promise of eternal life for the worthy. Far away in the Celtic lands, mist draped across green hills and burial mounds whispered of something similar. The Celts believed in the otherworld, a place of eternal youth and joy, hidden just beyond human sight. Fairy mounds and standing stones were thought to mark entrances to this realm. On Samhain night, when the veil was thin, mortals could stumble through these doorways and find themselves in an enchanted kingdom, or trapped forever. Picture a traveler wandering across a windswept plain, the moon rising above, only to see a glowing fissure in the hillside. Was it merely a trick of the light, or the portal to a land where time itself dissolved? The myths leave us uncertain, and that uncertainty itself fuels their power. Even in the deserts of Mesopotamia, myths held traces of portals. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest known stories, describes the hero traveling to the edge of the world, passing through twin mountains guarded by scorpion men. Beyond lay the path to immortality, shrouded in darkness. The symbolism is striking: mountains as thresholds, monstrous guardians as tests, and the hero as one who dares to cross where others fear to tread. This pattern repeats across the globe. Whether in Africa, Asia, or the Americas, humans envision guardians, gates, and hidden passages. What makes these myths so enduring is their contrast, the push and pull of fear and wonder. The Egyptian dead faced terror if unworthy, but paradise if prepared. The Celts promised eternal beauty but warned of being lost forever. In every story, the portal is both gift and curse. It is the place where everything might change, for better or worse. The emotional resonance of these tales still lingers. When we hear of a glowing doorway or a hidden passage in a modern film or story, we feel the same shiver our ancestors must have felt in front of their firelit walls. The symbols of these thresholds were often physical objects: doorways carved into stone, rivers that had to be crossed, caves that led into deeper darkness. Yet what they represented was larger than geography. They were expressions of human longing, for transcendence, for meaning beyond the grind of daily survival. Early humanity, standing vulnerable beneath the vastness of the sky, sought not only to hunt and gather but also to dream. Portals became the bridges between human fragility and cosmic mystery. They gave people a way to articulate what could not be touched, the sense that reality is not complete, that something more waits beyond. And these myths were not confined to the ancient world. The Middle Ages brought stories of shimmering doorways hidden in forests, monasteries whispering of heavenly gates, and shamans describing tunnels of light during trance journeys. Wherever humans looked, they imagined thresholds. Some were terrifying, guarded by demons. Others were beautiful, filled with celestial choirs. In every case, the imagery was vivid, emotional, and cinematic, designed to stir both awe and caution. It is tempting to dismiss these stories as primitive superstition. Yet, they endure not merely because they were once believed, but because they resonate with something timeless. Even today, the idea of crossing into another dimension lingers in our films, our books, and even in the language of science. Wormholes, multiverse, quantum realms, they echo the same human intuition that shaped the myths of our ancestors. The shadows of the past are never fully gone, they cast long silhouettes over the present. As the flames of those ancient fires die out, and as the myths echo across time, we are left with haunting questions. Were these portals only metaphors, ways for early humans to grapple with life, death, and the mystery of existence? Or did they reflect glimpses of truths too strange for science to yet confirm? The symbols carved into stone, the stories passed from generation to generation, may be more than fantasy. They may be fragments of knowledge lost, waiting to be rediscovered. The shadows of the past are not silent. They whisper, they beckon, they unsettle. And as we step away from the firelight of myth and into the glare of modern science, we carry those whispers with us. The question remains, echoing from ancient caves to modern minds, were our ancestors telling stories, or were they describing doorways they had already seen? The universe bends in silence, unseen and immeasurable. At first glance, reality appears solid, steady, dependable, the ground beneath our feet, the sky above, the stars wheeling in their predictable arcs. Yet the deeper we look, the more fragile this certainty becomes. Modern physics whispers of hidden corridors and invisible shortcuts, gateways that may connect distant points in space and time. These are not myths carved on stone walls, nor stories told around firelight, but equations written on chalkboards and computer simulations glowing against the dark. Still, their allure feels eerily familiar. They are the physics of hidden doors, scientific visions of portals that might bridge what was with what could be. Imagine a sheet of fabric stretched tight. Place two dots far apart on its surface, then fold the fabric so the dots touch. This simple illustration, often shown to students of relativity, is no mere metaphor, it is the essence of wormholes, or Einstein or Rosen bridges. Spacetime itself, Einstein taught us, is not rigid. It bends, curves, warps under the weight of mass and energy. If bent far enough, perhaps it could fold over on itself, allowing a traveler to step across impossible distances in a single moment. What once belonged to the realm of myth now pulses in the heart of science. Yet the paradox remains, are wormholes real gateways, or only shadows on the wall of mathematical caves? Cinematic imagery arises easily here. Picture a spacecraft hovering at the edge of a gravitational abyss, the event horizon of a black hole glowing faintly. Suddenly, a tunnel of swirling light opens, curving inward like the throat of a cosmic whirlpool. To cross it would be to vanish from everything known, to leap into the unknown with no guarantee of return. Scientists speak of equations, but what they describe sounds closer to poetry, closer to the legends of hidden paths whispered by our ancestors. The contrast is sharp. On one side, the precision of physics, on the other, the raw terror and wonder of human imagination. Einstein himself doubted that such portals could exist in any practical sense. Wormholes, if real, would collapse faster than anything could pass through them. But physicists like John Wheeler and Kip Thorne pushed the speculation further, asking, what if exotic matter, material with negative energy, could hold the tunnel open? What if, under the right conditions, a passage could remain stable long enough for light, or even a traveler, to cross? The thought is intoxicating and terrifying. It suggests that spacetime is not a wall but a curtain, and with the right tools, we might one day draw it aside. And yet, the universe resists simplicity. Each discovery opens new questions. Quantum physics adds layers of mystery, suggesting that the fabric of reality may be woven with threads finer than any we can imagine. At the Planck scale, space and time may jitter, fluctuate, dissolve into foam. If wormholes exist, they may appear not as grand tunnels glowing with light, but as tiny quantum pathways flickering in and out of existence at incomprehensible scales. The grand cosmic doorway could, in fact, be a sea of microscopic portals, each smaller than an atom, waiting for a way to be harnessed. But here lies the danger. The closer we approach, the more unstable the vision becomes. Equations diverge. Models contradict each other. A stable portal requires energy levels we can scarcely dream of creating. And still, the allure persists. What science cannot yet build, the imagination insists on testing. Films, novels, and even scientific thought experiments paint scenarios of voyages across galaxies, or even across timelines. What if a wormhole does not only bridge space, but also time itself? The thought of stepping not only into another place but into another era stretches both logic and emotion to their breaking point. Consider the paradoxes. If you could walk through a wormhole into the past, could you meet your former self? Could you alter history? Physicists call this the grandfather paradox, a puzzle where the act of change collapses the possibility of its own cause. The tension is irresistible. It is both a scientific headache and a narrative goldmine. The very equations of general relativity do not forbid such things outright, but they leave us dangling at the edge of contradiction. Here lies the cinematic hook. Portals are not impossible, but dangerous, unstable, unruly. They taunt us with possibility while daring us to confront the risks. The physics of hidden doors is not only about travel across vast distances or ancient histories. It is also about perception itself. To imagine a wormhole is to imagine the collapse of boundaries we have always taken for granted. The Earth feels vast, the stars impossibly distant, time unyielding. But wormholes threaten to shatter that scale, to make the impossible possible, to place entire galaxies within reach. What myths once promised, instant passage, sudden transcendence, physics now whispers as a conditional perhaps. Still, these whispers are not empty. They inspire experiments, models, and speculations. In particle accelerators, scientists search for anomalies that might hint at extra dimensions. In gravitational wave detectors, they listen for the faintest echoes of hidden structures in spacetime. Each experiment is like knocking against a wall, listening for the hollow resonance of a door. Most times, the sound is solid. But every now and then, a ripple, an unexpected signal, teases that something may be there, waiting to be uncovered. Yet the mystery remains unresolved. Wormholes, multiverse, hidden geometries, each is framed in science but still hovers like myth. We stand between certainty and wonder, caught between what the equations allow and what nature may actually permit. The fabric of reality might be smooth and closed, leaving no passage at all. Or it might be riddled with doors we simply lack the courage or the knowledge to open. The physics of hidden doors teaches us one thing above all: reality is stranger than it seems. Whether or not wormholes can ever carry us across the stars, they force us to rethink what space and time truly are. They blur the boundary between science and story, between rational possibility and dreamlike vision. And they leave us with a haunting question. If such doors exist, even fleetingly, who, or what, might already have walked through them? Time. It ticks, it flows, it slips through our fingers like water. To us, it feels like the most relentless force in existence, a silent architect shaping every moment of our lives. Empires rise and fall under its hand. Stars are born, blaze in brilliance, and collapse into darkness under its watch. For human beings, time is not only a measurement, it is a mystery. But what is it, truly? Is time a straight arrow that shoots endlessly from the past into the future? Is it a great circle, forever looping back on itself? Or is it, as some philosophers and scientists whisper, merely an illusion created by our limited perception? The more we examine it, the less stable it becomes, and the more the idea of portals, passages through or around time, seem to shift from fantasy to possibility. Imagine standing in a room filled with clocks. Each one ticks at a different rhythm, some racing ahead, others slowing down, their hands drifting out of sync. At first, the noise is overwhelming. Then you realize the room itself is alive, shifting with the pulse of these clocks. This is how time behaves under the lens of modern physics. It does not march forward at a steady pace. It bends, stretches, and even stalls, depending on where you stand and how fast you move. To climb a mountain is to age differently than someone by the sea. To race close to the speed of light is to feel moments slip by while centuries pass for those left behind. Already, the familiar arrow begins to dissolve into something far stranger. Philosophers have wrestled with this strangeness long before physics could measure it. To the ancient Greeks, time was divided into two phases. Chronos was the linear, quantitative ticking of seconds, the time of calendars, sundials, and seasons. Kairos was different, the time of moments, opportunities, the ripeness of an instant that cannot be measured but only felt. Picture a soldier in battle, knowing the exact second to strike, or a lover feeling the perfect moment to confess. Kairos is time as experience, as possibility. The two faces together reveal a paradox. Time is both mechanical and alive, both an unbroken chain and an ocean of meaning. A portal, then, is not merely a tunnel through physics but a bridge between these dimensions of time. Mystical traditions across the world imagine time not as a line but as a wheel. In Hindu cosmology, vast cycles of creation and destruction roll on endlessly, with universes themselves reborn after eons. In Mayan calendars, time is a sacred cycle, repeating and renewing. These visions offer a dramatic contrast to the Western obsession with progress and straight-line advancement. If time is circular, then every moment has happened before and will happen again. A portal in this worldview would not be an escape from time but a chance to glimpse where on the wheel we truly stand. Is our future merely the reawakening of an ancient past? But science, too, complicates the picture. Albert Einstein revealed that time is woven with space, forming spacetime. Gravity, mass, and motion stretch and warp it. Suddenly, time was no longer a universal drumbeat but a relative rhythm. Imagine two twins. One remains on Earth, the other journeys close to light speed in a spaceship. When they reunite, decades may have passed for one, only a few years for the other. This twin paradox is not imagination but experiment. Astronauts orbiting Earth already return slightly younger than those who remain below. The portal to different experiences of time is already real, written into the fabric of relativity. Still, relativity is only the beginning. Quantum mechanics further unsettles the picture, hinting that the universe does not evolve smoothly through time at all. Instead, it leaps in probabilities, collapsing into now only when observed. Some physicists propose that the flow of time may not exist fundamentally. Instead, it may emerge from entanglement, from the way particles connect and information unfolds. If true, then time as we know it is less like a river and more like a story being told, fluid, shifting, dependent on perspective. What then is a portal, if not a chance to skip ahead in that story or revisit a page already turned? The imagery grows stranger. Picture clocks dissolving into sand, sand flowing upward as well as downward. Picture the sun rising and setting in endless loops, only to rise in a different sky entirely. These are not just poetic visions but the way time behaves at its extremes, near black holes, at the quantum level, in the first seconds of the universe. Time falters, hesitates, and bends. The certainty we feel every time we glance at a wristwatch is only an illusion born of stability at our human scale. Beneath that surface lies turbulence, possibility, and mystery. For human beings, this is both awe-inspiring and terrifying. On one hand, the fragility of time suggests freedom. Perhaps we are not bound to its arrow after all. Perhaps there are ways to step outside it, to slip through a crack in its structure, to find a portal that bends it to our will. On the other hand, if time is not solid, then neither are we. Our lives, our histories, our sense of self depend on time's consistency. To realize it may be an illusion is to question everything we are. And yet, this tension is precisely what drives our fascination. Time is both the most intimate and the most alien dimension of existence. We feel its passing in our aging skin, in the withering of flowers, in the crumbling of cities. But on the cosmic scale, it mocks us, stretching billions of years into past and future that we can scarcely comprehend. A portal, if it exists, would not only transport us through space, it would allow us to touch these hidden architectures of time, to step out of our human scale and into the rhythm of the cosmos. The silence of time is deceptive. It feels steady, inevitable, irreversible. But in truth, it is fragile, plastic, uncertain. We have barely begun to scratch its surface, and already it shakes our foundations. If time itself can bend, then so too can the barriers we believe unbreakable. As we stand before the portal, shimmering in possibility, we are forced to ask, what does it mean to cross not into another place, but into another time? Would we return unchanged, or would we discover that the true portal was never in the cosmos at all, but in our own perception of reality? Close your eyes, and the world dissolves. The hum of traffic, the weight of gravity, even the ticking of the clock fades. Yet within your mind, doors open effortlessly. You can walk through the streets of your childhood, smell the dust of classrooms long gone, or feel the warmth of a long-lost embrace. This is memory, the inner portal. Without any machine, without bending the rules of physics, the human brain already allows us to step backward in time. Every neuron, every firing synapse, is a gateway into what was. But memory is more than a record, it is an architecture of portals within us, bridges not only to the past but to imagined futures, to versions of reality that might have been or could yet become. Picture the brain as a galaxy in miniature. Around 86 billion neurons spark like constellations in the dark, each one a star, each one connected to thousands of others by filaments of light. When you recall a moment, a childhood laugh, the scent of rain, the pain of a farewell, this galaxy reshapes itself, bringing constellations into alignment, relighting old paths. In that instant, you are not simply remembering, you are traveling. A fragment of the past, long buried, bursts into the present with such clarity that for a moment the border between then and now dissolves. It is as if the mind itself is a time machine, carrying us not only to places we have been but to the emotional landscapes we once inhabited. And yet, memory is unreliable. Each time we recall a moment, we reconstruct it. Neurons refire, connections shift, details change. What we think of as a perfect recording is instead more like a painting touched up again and again, colors altered, shapes softened. A memory is not the past itself but a portal shaped by perception, belief, and imagination. You can stand inside a memory, but it may not be the same memory you once knew. This fragility brings both wonder and danger. Memory can heal, keeping us connected to lost loved ones, reminding us of joy when life feels dark. But it can also deceive, creating false doorways, illusions of things that never were. Mystics and philosophers often described memory as a sacred bridge, linking human beings not only to their own past but to something larger. Saint Augustine, reflecting on the power of recollection, called memory vast palaces, endless rooms filled with sights, sounds, and emotions. In modern neuroscience, we might call it networks of storage and retrieval, yet the wonder remains. Within the folds of our minds, we contain entire worlds. And when we step through the portal of memory, we do not simply observe them, we live them again. This is why a song can break a heart decades after it was first heard, why a photograph can summon tears as if time itself had folded. But memory does not only look backward. The same neural pathways that allow us to recall the past also allow us to imagine the future. To plan, to dream, to hope, these abilities come from the same structures that reassemble old experiences. In fact, the brain often cannot tell the difference between memory and imagination. Both are portals, one leading into what was, the other into what could be. Neuroscientists call this the simulation theory of mind. When we picture a future event, the brain recruits the same systems it uses to remember. In this sense, every act of foresight is itself a crossing, a step into a portal where possibilities unfold like branching roads. Consider how deeply this shapes human life. A child recalls falling once while climbing and hesitates at the base of another tree. A leader remembers a time of crisis and imagines how to prevent its return. A dreamer, inspired by fragments of past success, builds a vision of tomorrow. These are small portals, inner crossings, yet they shape history as powerfully as physical ones. Civilizations are built not only on stone but on the memories carried within their people, memories of triumph, of trauma, of survival. And when cultures remember differently, the world itself fractures into different versions of reality. Cinematic imagery unfolds when we imagine memory as a hallway lined with doors. Some open easily, leading to scenes lit brightly, voices clear. Others are locked, their contents hidden, their shapes only half visible through cracks. Some doors lead to places we long to return, others to places we would rather forget. Yet all are part of the labyrinth. And as we walk those halls, we realize that each doorway is not only a passage back, it is also a mirror reflecting who we are now. To remember is to relive, but also to reinterpret, to reshape the past in the light of the present. The contrast is stark, memory as gift and memory as curse. A survivor may be haunted by flashbacks, unable to escape a trauma etched too deeply into the brain. Another may be lifted by the recollection of love, carrying the warmth of a parent's smile through decades of hardship. In both cases, memory bends time, making the past present again. These emotional crossings show us that portals are not only cosmic, they are personal, intimate, inescapable. And so the question rises, if memory itself is a portal, could external, physical portals be an extension of this? Could the deep desire for wormholes, time machines, and gateways be rooted in the fact that we already experience time differently inside our own minds? Perhaps the human fascination with stepping into another reality is simply a magnified version of what memory allows us to do every day. When we dream of walking through a glowing doorway into another age, maybe we are only projecting the way our neurons already carry us between past and possible futures. Memory is fragile, fleeting, unreliable, and yet it is also astonishing. It holds our identity, our meaning, our sense of continuity. Without memory, there is no what was, and without imagination, there is no what could be. Together, they form the most ancient, most personal portal of all, the mind's ability to travel across time, unbound by space. Every recollection is a crossing, every dream a threshold. The portals we build in myths and science may be reflections of the ones we already carry within us. And if that is true, then perhaps the first step toward finding a real portal is to listen closely to the one already shimmering behind our eyes. Imagine a night sky so dark and endless that the stars seem like scattered fragments of eternity. Now, imagine that this vastness is not silent, but humming with invisible tunnels, pathways carved into the fabric of reality itself. For centuries, human beings have dreamed of secret routes through space and time, shortcuts between distant stars, doorways to other universes, hidden passages that defy the ordinary march of ours. These imagined structures have many names: wormholes, Einstein or Rosen bridges, cosmic gateways. But behind every term lies the same alluring idea, that there may be portals woven into the very geometry of existence, waiting to be discovered. The story begins with Albert Einstein, who revolutionized how we think about space and time. To Einstein, the cosmos was not a stage where events unfolded, but a living fabric, flexible, bendable, capable of being warped by mass and energy. Gravity was not an invisible force pulling downward but the curvature of spacetime itself. Picture a stretched sheet of rubber, and place a heavy ball at its center. The ball sinks, bending the sheet around it. Smaller objects roll toward the indentation, not because they are being pulled but because the surface itself has curved. This is the essence of general relativity, and it opens the first hints of portals. If space can bend, could it also fold? In 1935, Einstein and his colleague Nathan Rosen introduced a startling idea. They found that the equations of relativity suggested a kind of bridge between two regions of spacetime, now called the Einstein or Rosen bridge. Though purely theoretical, it painted a breathtaking image: two black holes connected by a hidden tunnel. One entrance, then another, with a passage in between. Step through, and you emerge somewhere else entirely. Perhaps across the galaxy. Perhaps in another universe. Perhaps even in another moment of time. The thought electrified both scientists and dreamers alike, for it gave mathematical weight to the ancient human longing for hidden doors. But wormholes, as they came to be known, carried complications. According to Einstein's equations, they would collapse too quickly for anything, light, a spacecraft, or a human being, to pass through. They would exist only in the blink of an eye, sealed shut before they could be crossed. To keep a wormhole open, something extraordinary would be required: matter with negative energy density, something capable of resisting the natural urge of gravity to close the tunnel. This became known as exotic matter, and to this day, no one has found a way to produce it in quantities large enough to stabilize such a cosmic passage. Yet the equations whisper possibility, and possibility has always been enough to keep imagination alive. The tension grows sharper when we contrast the scientific beauty of wormholes with the human longing they touch. On one hand, they are purely mathematical, existing only on paper and in thought experiments. On the other, they stir something primal, the dream of escape, the hope of transcendence. A dying world might seek salvation through such a doorway. A traveler might long to find loved ones in another timeline. The very concept blurs the line between science and myth, between equations on a chalkboard and stories of enchanted gates from ancient folklore. The cosmic and the human meet here, bound by the same desire: to cross, to reach, to find what lies beyond. Cinematic imagery emerges when we envision a wormhole not as an abstract solution but as a living scene. Imagine the sky tearing open, revealing a swirling tunnel of light. Stars elongate into rivers, galaxies twist like ribbons pulled into infinity. The entrance glows like an iris, beckoning the traveler to step through. On one side, the familiar. On the other, the unknown. It is at once terrifying and irresistible, the ultimate cliffhanger written into the universe itself. No wonder it has captivated filmmakers, writers, and philosophers alike. Wormholes are not just scientific hypotheticals, they are the embodiment of mystery itself. And yet, we must pause. If wormholes exist, could they be stable enough for travel? Would stepping through be a journey or a death sentence? The paradox deepens when physicists ask if wormholes could connect not just places but times. If one mouth of the tunnel were accelerated close to the speed of light, time dilation might create a discrepancy, turning the bridge into a time machine. Step through one end, and you could arrive not only elsewhere but elsewhen. This idea unsettles the foundations of causality, raising questions about paradoxes. Could you meet your younger self? Could you alter history? Or would the universe find a way to prevent contradictions, closing the portal before the impossible could occur? Such questions draw a stark contrast: the majesty of possibility versus the weight of impossibility. For every equation suggesting that wormholes could exist, there are others insisting they would require conditions beyond anything the universe can provide. Exotic matter may remain a fantasy. Quantum fluctuations might tear any tunnel apart. The dream may be forever just that, a dream. Yet, paradoxically, the very uncertainty is what fuels fascination. A portal that is both impossible and possible holds far more allure than one that is guaranteed. Perhaps wormholes, whether real or not, are mirrors of the human condition. They remind us of our hunger for escape, for transcendence, for something more than the boundaries of our immediate reality. We may never build a spacecraft that dives into a wormhole, but in thought, in art, in philosophy, we already cross them every day. They are symbols of the tension between what we know and what we hope, between the limits of physics and the boundlessness of imagination. As we step out of this exploration, the mystery lingers. If the universe holds such hidden gateways, are they rare, scattered like jewels across the cosmos, or abundant, woven into the fabric of every galaxy? Have they already swallowed entire stars, or do they wait silently, undetected, until the right mind dares to find them? Perhaps the portals are out there. Perhaps they are not. But in wondering, in imagining, we have already taken the first step through. Beneath the surface of physics lies a trembling uncertainty, a whisper that reality is not as solid as it seems. If wormholes tempt us with bridges carved into the vast expanse of spacetime, quantum mechanics unsettles us with something even stranger. Portals that flicker in and out of existence at scales too small for the naked eye to perceive. Here, in the realm of the infinitesimal, the ordinary rules collapse. The universe does not unfold as a steady stream but as a restless sea of probabilities, a cosmic storm where particles appear, vanish, and reappear without warning. In this restless ocean, some physicists suggest, portals may not be rare and monumental but constant and fleeting, bubbling up in the very fabric of space itself. This idea is called quantum foam, a term introduced by John Wheeler. Imagine zooming in on spacetime so closely that the smooth fabric described by Einstein becomes ragged, chaotic, and frothing with energy. At this scale, tiny wormholes might open and close in the blink of a quantum moment, too unstable for anything to pass through, yet hinting that the universe itself is riddled with invisible doorways. These are not majestic tunnels across galaxies but microscopic flashes, like sparks from a fire that burn out before the eye can even register them. Still, their existence suggests that portals are not only possible, they may be fundamental to the architecture of reality. The mystery deepens when quantum entanglement enters the story. Two particles, once linked, can remain connected across vast distances, responding to each other instantly, as if some hidden portal keeps them in constant conversation. Einstein dismissed it as spooky action at a distance, but experiments have confirmed it beyond doubt. The effect defies ordinary understanding, for no signal travels between them, no messenger crosses the void. And yet, the connection persists, unbroken by space or time. Some theorists have begun to wonder, could entanglement and wormholes be two faces of the same coin? Could the invisible tether between particles be a tiny bridge, a quantum portal, stretching silently through the void? The contrast between scales is astonishing. On one hand, we imagine grand portals spanning galaxies, glowing tunnels that a spacecraft might traverse. On the other, we confront the idea that every particle, every atom, may be part of a hidden web of microscopic doorways, flickering faster than thought. This shift in scale forces us to reimagine the cosmos not as a stable arena but as an endless network of crossings, some too small for us to ever touch, others perhaps waiting for us to discover. What seems impossible on the cosmic stage might be commonplace in the subatomic theater. But quantum portals also raise darker questions. If spacetime is constantly bubbling with microscopic tunnels, could these fluctuations tear at the stability of reality itself? Could our universe, in fact, be only one of many, connected by a hidden scaffolding of quantum wormholes? The possibility is thrilling and terrifying. If true, then every moment we exist is precarious, balanced on a chaos we cannot control. Yet in that same chaos lies a strange hope. Perhaps the barriers we see, between stars, between timelines, between universes, are not barriers at all but illusions born of scale. Perhaps what separates us from elsewhere is nothing more than the flicker of probability. Imagine this cinematically, a vast black void, suddenly alive with bursts of light. Tiny tunnels shimmer open, collapse, and reopen like breathing lungs of the cosmos. Particles leap between them, tethered by invisible cords. A camera zooms out, showing that this seething foam underlies everything, the stars, the galaxies, even us. What appears to be solid and certain is revealed as porous, trembling, alive with hidden channels. The universe is not a fortress of walls but a labyrinth of half-seen doors. The allure of quantum portals is heightened by their duality. They represent both fragility and power. Fragility, because they exist only for unimaginably short moments, collapsing before they can be traversed. Power, because if humanity ever learns to stabilize them, they could become keys to realities we have barely imagined. Where Einstein's bridges require exotic matter beyond our reach, quantum mechanics whispers that the portals may already be here, waiting, everywhere. The challenge is not to build them but to learn how to hold them open. This vision unsettles our sense of control. For centuries, science has sought to reduce uncertainty, to replace mystery with clarity. Yet at the quantum level, mystery is inescapable. The uncertainty principle ensures that we cannot know both the position and momentum of a particle with absolute precision. Reality itself seems to resist being pinned down. Portals born in such a world are not gates we can knock upon at will but fleeting invitations, shimmering at the edge of comprehension. Still, even these flickers of possibility inspire awe. To consider that the universe may be a constant storm of openings and closings is to reframe existence itself. Every breath you take, every atom in your body, may be part of this ceaseless dance of appearance and disappearance. Perhaps life itself is only possible because of these hidden doorways, because of the restless foam from which matter and energy emerge. In this sense, we do not stand outside the portals, longing to enter, we are born of them, woven from their very fabric. As the thought lingers, another question arises. If quantum portals exist, could consciousness itself be tied to them? Some speculative theories suggest that the mind might tap into quantum processes, that thought itself may rely on this strange web of probabilities. If true, then every act of imagination, every dream, every vision of what could be might already be a crossing into another kind of portal, not one of matter, but of possibility. The contrast is complete. Wormholes of relativity are grand and cosmic, while portals of quantum theory are fleeting and microscopic. Yet together, they sketch the outline of a universe far stranger than we dared to believe. One vision whispers of bridges across galaxies, the other murmurs of doorways hidden in every particle. Both defy common sense. Both promise transformation. Both leave us standing before an abyss of questions. And so the mystery persists. If quantum portals flicker everywhere, why can't we see them? If they connect particles, can they also connect worlds? Are they mere mathematical illusions, or are they hints of a truth so vast that our minds can only catch it in glimpses? Each possibility beckons us deeper, into the heart of the unknown, into a place where science and philosophy blur into one. The portals may vanish as quickly as they appear, but their echo remains, urging us to ask, what if the very ground beneath our feet is alive with hidden crossings, and reality itself is a passage between worlds? Beneath the curtain of physics lies a question that has haunted humanity for millennia. Is the universe we see the only one? Or are we, in truth, one ripple in an ocean of countless realities? If wormholes and quantum portals hint at the possibility of passageways, then the multiverse theory explodes the scale of imagination altogether. It does not merely suggest hidden tunnels within our cosmos, it whispers of infinite other universes, each with its own laws, histories, and possibilities. To confront this vision is to step through the ultimate portal, not into another place, but into an endless sea of realities, each one shimmering like a mirage at the edge of thought. The multiverse begins as a mathematical possibility. In cosmology, the Big Bang is not always described as a single event but as a continuing expansion, a frothing eruption of energy and inflation. Some versions of this theory suggest that our universe is just one bubble in a vast cosmic foam, with countless other bubbles forming, expanding, and drifting beyond our reach. Each bubble could have its own rules, different values for gravity, different chemistry, even different dimensions. In one, stars may never form. In another, life may bloom in ways unrecognizable to us. And in still another, there may be worlds almost identical to ours, save for the smallest differences, a shifted choice, a different fate, a single heartbeat that altered everything. This vision expands into the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. According to this radical idea, every time a choice is made, reality splits. At every fork, both paths are taken. In one universe, you turned left. In another, you turned right. In one, you lived. In another, you did not. These universes branch endlessly, creating an infinite lattice of possibilities. If true, then portals are not rare openings but constant divisions, and our existence is one strand in an incomprehensible weave. The contrast between our lived sense of a single linear life and the possibility of infinite versions of ourselves is staggering. We are at once unique and infinitely multiplied, fragile and eternal. The emotional impact of this theory cannot be overstated. Imagine looking at yourself in a mirror and realizing that the reflection is not simply an image, but another you, one who made a different choice, who lived another story. Imagine that every regret you carry, every what-if that haunts your memory, exists somewhere, lived out in full. The multiverse transforms longing and sorrow into something else entirely, the possibility that nothing is ever truly lost. Somewhere, in some version of reality, your dreams came true. Somewhere, you were the person you wished you could be. Yet the same thought cuts sharply the other way. Somewhere, you became the villain. Somewhere, you failed utterly. Somewhere, your worst fears took shape. Cinematic imagery bursts from this vision. Picture a field of shimmering bubbles, each glowing with its own galaxies. One bursts, another expands, another collides with its neighbor, rippling with light. The camera zooms in on one bubble. It is our universe, fragile, suspended in an infinite sea. Then it zooms closer, showing branching trees of possibility, each branch a different world, each leaf a different version of you. The screen fractures into countless shards, each playing a different life. Some are joyful, others tragic, all real. The mind reels, for this is not merely science, it is philosophy written across the fabric of existence. And yet, like all portals, the multiverse is a paradox. On one hand, it offers hope. If we are one of many, then perhaps our failures are softened by the knowledge that elsewhere we succeeded. If we are one of many, then perhaps death is not an end but a transition to a place where life continues in another branch. On the other hand, it unsettles identity. If there are countless versions of you, then who are you, truly? Are you the sum of all possibilities, or only the thread you inhabit? The multiverse both expands us into infinity and reduces us to a single drop in a limitless ocean. Scientists wrestle with the question of evidence. If other universes exist, can we ever detect them? Some cosmologists speculate that subtle imprints in the cosmic microwave background, the faint radiation left over from the Big Bang, could reveal collisions between universes. Others suggest that quantum entanglement might be the residue of deeper connections across worlds. But for now, the multiverse remains unproven, perched between physics and philosophy, a hypothesis that hovers at the edge of science and story. Philosophers, too, have long wondered about such multiplicity. Ancient Hindu cosmology spoke of countless universes, each with its own gods and cycles. Buddhist thought envisioned worlds within worlds, an endless chain of realities. Modern science echoes these old intuitions, suggesting that perhaps what we call the universe is not unique but one of many layers, hidden from view. The resonance across time suggests something profound. The human mind, across cultures and centuries, has always sensed that reality is too vast to be singular. The multiverse theory also redefines the very idea of portals. If other universes exist, could we ever reach them? Would a wormhole lead not to another place in our cosmos but to an entirely different one? Could a quantum fluctuation reveal a neighboring reality? Or are these worlds forever sealed, inaccessible yet hauntingly close? This tension, the dream of crossing versus the fear of eternal separation, is what makes the idea so powerful. The portal may be there, but we may never walk through. And yet, even if we never cross, the thought transforms us. To live with the possibility of the multiverse is to live with expanded imagination. It forces us to ask deeper questions. What does it mean to make a choice, if all choices are taken? What does it mean to be alive, if every version of life is unfolding somewhere else? What does it mean to die, if another you continues? The multiverse challenges not only science but the very foundation of meaning. The cinematic tension builds to a haunting close. If there are infinite versions of reality, then the portal between what was and what could be is not only theoretical, it is constant. We live at the intersection of infinite paths, unaware of the doors opening and closing around us at every moment. And though we cannot yet step across, we carry within us the knowledge that reality itself may be a corridor lined with endless doors, each leading to a universe both familiar and strange. There are moments in human history when myth and science collide, when stories told by ancient voices echo so closely with modern theories that the boundaries blur. If the multiverse suggests infinite realities, then myths of otherworldly realms hint that our ancestors, too, sensed portals, hidden crossings into places beyond the ordinary. These myths are not simply fables, they are cultural attempts to grasp the same mystery that physicists now chase with equations. In their language of gods, spirits, and dreams, they may have been speaking of the same longing, to find the passage between what was and what could be. Across the world, portals appear in ancient stories like recurring constellations. In Norse mythology, there was Bifrost, the rainbow bridge connecting Midgard, the world of humans, to Asgard, the realm of the gods. It shimmered in the sky like a cosmic pathway, fragile yet radiant, a reminder that other worlds were close at hand. In Greek myth, Hades was not only a place of the dead but a realm entered through secret gates, caves, rivers, thresholds where the boundary between life and afterlife thinned. In Hindu cosmology, there were lokas, layered realms stacked like levels of existence, each accessible through spiritual passage, each shimmering with its own laws. These myths gave form to what science now phrases in abstractions, doorways hidden in the fabric of reality, leading to spaces both terrifying and transcendent. The imagery of portals in myth often mirrored the natural world. A cave mouth became an entrance to the underworld, a rainbow a bridge to the heavens, a dream a passage into other states of being. These symbols carried weight because they revealed something universal, the sense that our world is not closed, but permeable. To stand before a dark cavern or to look up at a storm-split sky was to feel that another reality might be pressing close, just beyond the veil. The portal was not only a doorway, it was an invitation, sometimes to wisdom, sometimes to danger. The contrast between myth and science lies in form but not in spirit. Modern physicists speak of wormholes, quantum foam, and multiverse, using equations to describe what myths clothed in gods and legends. Yet both traditions grapple with the same tension, the desire to cross beyond human limits, and the fear of what lies on the other side. For the ancients, crossing into other realms often demanded sacrifice or transformation. Heroes descended into the underworld and returned changed, or not at all. Gods warned mortals not to look back when stepping through thresholds, for to disobey meant annihilation. These cautionary tales mirror the scientific warnings, that wormholes may collapse, that quantum portals may shred reality, that the price of crossing may be unbearable. Imagine this cinematically: a shaman stands at the mouth of a cave, firelight flickering on stone walls painted with visions of beasts and stars. He closes his eyes, chanting, and in his trance, the cave dissolves into a glowing corridor of light. Cut forward in time, a physicist stares at chalkboards filled with equations, seeing in numbers the possibility of a tunnel through spacetime. The two images blur together, separated by centuries but united by the same act of wonder, seeking the hidden passage. This blending of myth and science reveals something profound. The portals may not only exist in reality, but within us, as archetypes, recurring visions born of human imagination and longing. Yet myths also remind us that portals are never simple. They are double-edged. They promise enlightenment but threaten madness. They offer reunion but risk exile. To step through is to gamble with identity, to risk being torn apart. Orpheus entered Hades to retrieve his beloved Eurydice but lost her forever when he broke the rule not to look back. In Japanese folklore, mortals who entered the realm of the kami returned to find centuries had passed. These stories highlight the same paradoxes that haunt physics, that time may flow differently across portals, that cause and effect may twist, that the traveler may never return as they were. This duality creates an emotional pull. Myths portray portals not only as places of wonder but as tests of courage, will, and purity. They are thresholds that demand transformation. To cross is not simply to move in space, but to change in essence. This mirrors our deepest hopes and fears about scientific portals, that to step into a wormhole or quantum gateway would not simply be travel, it would be rebirth or dissolution. Some scholars suggest that myths of portals are not primitive fantasies but encoded wisdom, attempts to grapple with altered states of consciousness, dreams, or experiences beyond ordinary perception. The dream world, after all, is itself a kind of portal. Each night we slip into landscapes that feel real, walk with the dead, glimpse impossible events. Could ancient people, in telling stories of bridges, caves, and shimmering gates, have been describing the same phenomenon we now call the subconscious or the quantum imagination? Could the myths be metaphors for the same crossings that modern science is only beginning to articulate? Here lies the haunting possibility, that the idea of portals is not imposed on the world by culture but discovered within it, glimpsed by both mythmakers and scientists. One expresses it in ritual and story, the other in experiment and theory, but both are reaching toward the same truth, that the universe is not sealed, but laced with thresholds. The cinematic contrast deepens when we place myths' imagery beside science's precision. A rainbow bridge stretches across the sky, an Einstein or Rosen bridge stretches across spacetime. A cave mouth glows with unseen light, a quantum fluctuation trembles with hidden tunnels. A shaman chants by fire, a physicist calculates in a lab. Both scenes are portals themselves, windows into humanity's unending quest to cross beyond the ordinary. As the section closes, a question lingers like an echo: were the ancients simply dreaming, or were they glimpsing truths we now attempt to measure? Were the gods' realms nothing more than imagination, or were they metaphors for multiverse and wormholes we have yet to find? Perhaps the line between myth and science is not as sharp as we think. Perhaps the portals we seek outside were first built inside the human spirit, preparing us for the day when imagination might meet discovery. Time is the one current no one escapes, the invisible river that carries us all forward. Yet within every culture, every myth, and every theory of physics, there exists the haunting suggestion that this flow is not absolute. Time, perhaps, is not a single straight line but a landscape with bends, folds, and hidden passages. To speak of portals is to inevitably speak of time, For what doorway could be more powerful than the one that allows us to step into yesterday, or tomorrow? Section after section, we have explored space, wormholes, and multiverse, but now we must confront the most intimate portal of all, the possibility of time itself as a gate. Physics tells us that time is not universal. It bends with gravity, stretches with velocity, and even halts at the edge of a black hole's horizon. Einstein's theory of relativity revealed that two observers can experience time differently, depending on their speed or the gravitational pull around them. Imagine twins. One stays on Earth, while the other travels at near-light speed to a distant star and back. Upon return, the traveler is younger, the earthbound sibling older. Time has flowed unevenly, revealing a doorway not imagined but written into the very structure of reality. Already, the universe allows us glimpses of portals in time, not through fantasy, but through the laws of nature. Yet what would it mean to cross deliberately into another era? The possibility electrifies both science and story, for time travel is the ultimate portal, a passage not across distance, but across destiny itself. If wormholes could connect not only places but moments, then the portal is no longer just a bridge between stars, it is a bridge between what was and what could be. But with this possibility comes paradox. If you could return to the past, could you change it? And if you did, what would become of the present? The famous grandfather paradox illustrates this dilemma. If you traveled back and prevented your own ancestor from living, you could not exist to make the journey. Logic collapses under the weight of the crossing. Still, some physicists argue that paradoxes might resolve themselves. One interpretation suggests that time is self-consistent. Whatever you do in the past was always part of history, and you cannot change it. Another possibility arises from the multiverse. Every alteration spawns a new branch, creating not contradictions but alternate timelines. In this model, time portals do not erase or rewrite but multiply, scattering realities like shards of a broken mirror. The tension between these views creates a cinematic contrast, time as a fixed stage versus time as an infinite branching labyrinth. But time portals need not always look like machines or wormholes. Consider how deeply time already shapes human experience. Memory itself is a kind of backward travel, imagination a step into the future. Our minds are constantly crossing temporal thresholds, moving between recollection, presence, and anticipation. Perhaps our fascination with time travel is rooted in this internal ability. We long to make external what we already do within. The portal is not alien to us, it is written into our perception, our longing, our grief, and our hope. Cinematic imagery helps us feel this paradox. Imagine a watch ticking in slow motion while the world around it races forward. Imagine standing at the edge of a black hole, watching the stars above whirl by at impossible speeds, while for you, only seconds pass. Imagine stepping through a doorway and finding yourself in the same street but in another century, horses in place of cars, gas lamps in place of neon lights. Time portals are at once thrilling and terrifying, for they do not merely relocate us, they shatter our sense of continuity, uprooting the very ground of identity. Philosophy deepens the enigma. If time is a portal, then what is the self that moves through it? Are you the same person if you meet your past self or your future self? Does identity remain constant when cut loose from linear progression, or does it dissolve, scattered across moments like echoes in a canyon? To step through time is to confront the fragility of what we call now, to recognize that the present is only one frame in an infinite reel. The dangers of time portals echo through stories as warnings. In myth, mortals who entered timeless realms often returned to find centuries gone. In folklore, bargains with beings outside time always came at a cost, youth stolen, years vanished, destinies warped. These tales mirror the scientific cautions, that to step outside time's flow may be to lose yourself in it, trapped or undone by forces too vast to master. The emotional weight here is powerful. We long for time portals not only to explore but to heal, to undo mistakes, to retrieve lost moments, to see those we love again. But the very structure of time may deny us such mercy. And yet, hope persists. Theories of closed time-like curves, quantum fluctuations, and higher dimensions all suggest that time may not be as rigid as it appears. If the universe is stranger than we imagine, perhaps time itself is porous, and the line between past, present, and future more like a veil than a wall. Perhaps the portal exists not in machines or wormholes, but in understanding itself, waiting for the moment when our perception catches up with reality. As this section closes, the tension lingers. If time is a river, then portals are its hidden eddies, its whirlpools, its secret tributaries flowing in directions we cannot see. The question is not only whether we can step into them, but whether we should. For to cross into another moment may be the most profound transformation of all, one that redefines not only the universe but ourselves. Consciousness has always been the quiet storm beneath the grand machinery of the cosmos. While science dissects particles, measures forces, and maps galaxies, the enigma of awareness lingers like an unsolved riddle, a hidden portal within. What is it that allows matter to feel, to dream, to question itself? Is consciousness merely an emergent property of neurons, or is it the key to something far greater, a bridge between what was and what could be? When we step into this question, the tone shifts. The mystery becomes more intimate, the frontier closer than any star, for this portal is not out there among distant galaxies, it is here, behind our eyes, humming in every thought. Modern neuroscience presents consciousness as the product of brain activity. Billions of neurons firing in intricate patterns, exchanging signals with chemical whispers and electrical sparks, somehow give rise to the sense of I. This explanation is powerful, measurable, but incomplete. For no matter how deeply we map the brain, the raw experience of being, the redness of red, the sound of rain, the ache of longing, slips away like smoke through fingers. This is the so-called hard problem of consciousness, how physical processes translate into subjective experience. Here lies a philosophical chasm, one that feels less like science and more like a portal to another reality. Throughout history, consciousness has been described in almost mystical terms. Ancient traditions viewed awareness not as a byproduct of matter but as the foundation of existence itself. The Upanishads called it the Atman, the eternal witness. In Taoist thought, it was the flowing harmony beneath the dualities of nature. Western philosophy, from Descartes to Kant, wrestled with the mind-body divide, unable to fully grasp how thought and substance intertwine. Each tradition hints at the same possibility. Consciousness is not a mere passenger but perhaps the very engine of reality. If so, then it is not only a mystery to solve, it is a portal to step through. Imagine for a moment that consciousness is fundamental, not derivative. The universe then becomes less like a machine and more like a dream, a vast unfolding awareness that expresses itself through matter, energy, and time. This idea surfaces in modern physics as well, where interpretations of quantum mechanics flirt with the role of the observer. Could it be that reality itself crystallizes only when observed, that consciousness does not merely perceive but actively participates in shaping what is real? If true, the portal of consciousness may be the most powerful gateway of all, for it collapses the divide between subject and object, between the self and the cosmos. Cinematic imagery captures this enigma with force. Picture an astronaut floating in the void, their breath echoing inside the helmet, staring at a galaxy blooming across the darkness. Yet within that vast panorama, the true miracle is not the stars but the awareness gazing at them. Or imagine standing in a forest, hearing the wind move through the trees, and realizing that the sound, the sensation, the very experience exists only through the portal of mind. Without consciousness, the universe may be silent. With it, the cosmos sings. But here the danger of ego appears. If consciousness is the ultimate portal, then hubris tempts us to claim mastery. Technologies advance, brain-computer interfaces, artificial intelligence, neural mapping. We are on the verge of altering, extending, even replicating the architecture of awareness. Yet do we understand what we are touching? To manipulate consciousness may be to tamper with the deepest code of reality, opening doors we cannot yet see. Contrast frames this tension, the awe of awakening human potential against the fear of losing our very essence. The portal of consciousness may liberate, or consume. Philosophy deepens the paradox. If the self is the traveler through this portal, who or what is the self? Neuroscience suggests the I is an illusion, a constructed narrative woven by the brain to unify experience. Buddhism echoes this insight, teaching that the self is a fleeting pattern, not a permanent entity. If the traveler is an illusion, then who steps through the portal? Perhaps no one. Perhaps consciousness itself is the traveler and the landscape all at once, both the doorway and the destination. There are whispers from near-death experiences, from psychedelic journeys, from moments of mystical clarity. People describe dissolving into infinite light, encountering timeless awareness, feeling themselves not as separate beings but as facets of something vast. Whether these are hallucinations or glimpses of a deeper reality remains debated, but their emotional weight cannot be dismissed. They remind us that consciousness may not be confined to biology, that it may, in some way, extend beyond the boundaries of the brain. If so, then death itself might not be an end but another portal, one hidden in plain sight. Hope surges here. If consciousness is the foundation of reality, then we are not passive observers but active participants in the unfolding of the cosmos. Fear lingers too. If awareness shapes reality, then every thought is a seed, and our collective mind may determine what kind of world emerges. This tension between possibility and responsibility frames the drama of the portal within. It is not a fantasy of time machines or wormholes but something more intimate, more urgent, the recognition that the greatest frontier may already reside inside us. As we close this section, the air hums with unanswered questions. Is consciousness a spark that emerges only under rare conditions, destined to flicker out, or is it the eternal field from which all existence flows? Are we minds within matter, or matter within mind? The portal of consciousness does not merely invite us to look outward at stars and galaxies, it dares us to look inward, into the unfathomable depths of awareness itself. And perhaps, in that inward journey, we may glimpse the most profound bridge of all, one that binds what was to what could be. Throughout this exploration, portals have appeared as theoretical constructs, as cosmic gateways, and as metaphysical questions. But there is another dimension to them, one rooted in myth, folklore, and the timeless human imagination. Long before mathematics described wormholes, long before telescopes captured galaxies colliding, people told stories of hidden doors in mountains, enchanted mirrors, thresholds into dream worlds, and stairways that spiraled into other realms. These myths were not mere entertainment, they were humanity's earliest attempts to frame the unknown, to shape the ineffable mystery into images that could be shared. In many ways, they were cinematic stories before cinema existed, rich with contrast, fear, and wonder. Across cultures, portals appear as archetypes, symbols that express the longing to step beyond the ordinary into the extraordinary. In Celtic legend, the side mounds concealed entrances to the fairy world, places where time flowed differently and mortals could lose centuries in what felt like a single night. In Japanese folklore, the torii gate marked the boundary between the profane and the sacred, a physical threshold reminding the traveler that they were crossing into a different dimension of meaning. The Greeks spoke of Hades' entrance at the edge of the known world, a shadowed portal not to dreams but to the silence beyond life. These stories carry emotional resonance because they embody contrasts, hope and danger, the lure of discovery and the threat of loss. Every portal promises transformation, but at a price. Psychologically, myths of portals mirror our own inner thresholds. Just as a hero steps into the underworld, we cross through phases of life, childhood into adulthood, certainty into doubt, despair into renewal. Myths give these inner passages a shape, a language, a scene painted in fire and stone. The cave, the forest path, the mysterious doorway, all serve as mirrors of the psyche's most powerful transitions. To speak of mythical portals is not only to describe ancient stories, but to recognize the living symbols we carry within. Cinematic imagery helps capture this beautifully. Picture an ancient stone archway in the middle of a mist-covered field, glowing faintly under moonlight. Imagine a mirror rippling like water as a hand reaches through its surface. See a cave mouth yawning at the edge of a cliff, the sound of wind inside like whispers of another world. These images resonate not only because they are strange but because they are familiar, carved into the shared unconscious of humanity. There is a philosophical question buried here as well. Why do humans invent portals at all? Why does every culture tell stories of doors to other realms? Perhaps it is because we sense that the visible world is incomplete, that there is always something just beyond the veil of perception. Myths give us a way to face this feeling, to turn fear of the unknown into a story we can carry. The portal, then, is not simply a doorway to somewhere else, it is a metaphor for the human condition itself, always caught between what we know and what we yearn to discover. Yet these myths carry warnings, too. Mortals who ventured into fairy realms often returned hollow or never returned at all. Heroes who crossed into the underworld had to pay with loss or sacrifice. The portal is not simply an invitation, it is a test. It asks whether you are ready to leave behind what you know, to risk everything for the possibility of transformation. The contrast is stark, on one side safety, on the other the abyss. But without the crossing, there can be no growth, no revelation. Modern fantasy and science fiction carry these myths forward, reframed for new audiences. From wardrobes that open into Narnia, to stargates that lead to distant galaxies, to simulations that allow us to awaken into other realities, the ancient portal archetype lives on. Technology and myth merge here. What was once spoken of in legends is now explored through cinematic storytelling, visual effects, and even theoretical physics. Yet beneath the spectacle, the emotional core remains the same. A portal is a chance to step into the unknown and find out who you truly are. Psychologists like Carl Jung would call these portals archetypes of transformation, symbols of the collective unconscious that guide us through life's transitions. To step through a portal in a dream, in myth, or in a story is to enact a deeper psychological journey, the letting go of the old self, the trial of uncertainty, and the emergence of a new identity. In this way, portals are not only cosmic or cultural, they are personal. Each of us has crossed them, sometimes without even noticing, in moments of profound change. The mystery deepens when we consider whether these myths are only stories or if they point toward truths yet unknown. Could it be that ancient tales of portals were not purely symbolic, but echoes of phenomena we have not yet understood? Just as lightning was once explained as the anger of gods before science revealed electricity, perhaps the mythical thresholds of old are cultural memories of deeper realities, dimensions, energies, or phenomena that science may one day glimpse. If so, then myth may be both mirror and map, guiding us toward discoveries not yet made. As this section closes, the images linger: a hidden door in a mountain, a ripple in the air, a dream of stepping into light. Myths remind us that the portal has always been with us, not only as a theory or a technology but as a symbol of our eternal longing to go beyond. The stories are ancient, but the yearning is alive, and in that yearning lies a question that refuses to fade. Are portals merely tales of imagination, or are they whispers of realities just beyond the reach of sight? When we speak of portals, it is tempting to keep our gaze fixed on myths or distant galaxies, but there is a quieter dimension, one that exists not in the external universe but within the human psyche itself. The mind is a landscape of thresholds, and in its labyrinth lie doorways as mysterious and transformative as any wormhole or mythical gate. Section by section we have moved from physics to philosophy, from myth to possibility, and now the story narrows its focus to the inner portals we all carry, the unseen gateways of perception, memory, and imagination. These portals are not built of stone or stitched from spacetime, they are woven from thought, dream, and awareness. Consider memory as a portal. A single scent, a fleeting melody, a photograph can thrust us backward into the past with startling clarity. For an instant, the years dissolve, and we are children again, standing in familiar rooms, hearing voices long gone. These moments remind us that time is not a straight march forward but a layered experience. Memory opens a hidden door and lets us walk into what was, not physically but vividly, emotionally, almost tangibly. This inner threshold reveals how the mind bends time, pulling the past into the present like a hidden wormhole inside consciousness itself. Then there is imagination, a portal not backward but forward. It is through imagination that we travel to futures not yet written, constructing possible worlds, testing paths, rehearsing choices. Every invention, every act of creativity, begins as a step through this invisible gate. The scientist who dreams of equations not yet proven, the artist who envisions a world not yet painted, the philosopher who wonders at realities not yet explored, all step through the portal of imagination. In these moments, the mind becomes a bridge between what is and what could be, turning possibility into vision. Dreams are perhaps the most cinematic of inner portals. Every night, we enter worlds untethered by physics, where time bends, landscapes shift, and identities dissolve. In dreams, we may fly, relive old wounds, or meet figures that embody wisdom or terror. Ancient cultures treated dreams as messages from the gods or glimpses into other realities. Modern science explains them as neural processes, yet even with brain scans and psychology, the mystery remains. Why do these dream worlds feel so real? Why does the dream portal leave such emotional imprints on our waking lives? Perhaps dreams are more than random firings, perhaps they are a threshold into layers of mind that brush against something deeper. Meditation and altered states provide yet another portal inward. Through practices as old as shamanic rituals or as modern as brain stimulation, humans have sought to shift consciousness into realms beyond ordinary perception. Some report sensations of unity with the cosmos, journeys into timeless awareness, or encounters with archetypal presences. Whether these are inner hallucinations or genuine glimpses of hidden dimensions, they function as portals of transformation. They dissolve the boundaries of the everyday self and open the possibility that consciousness is not confined but expansive, layered, and mysterious. Cinematic imagery captures this with haunting power. Imagine a man sitting alone in a quiet room, his eyes closed, his breath steady. As the camera drifts closer, the walls dissolve into an endless sky of stars, and he floats weightless, surrounded not by matter but by his own thoughts turned luminous. Picture a child holding an old toy, the sound of laughter echoing as the room around them melts into a memoriscape of their younger self playing in the same place. See a woman staring at her reflection in a mirror as the glass ripples, and she steps through into a corridor of her own memories and dreams. These visuals mirror the portals of the mind, ethereal, shifting, yet profoundly real. Philosophically, the existence of these inner portals challenges our notion of reality itself. If a dream can feel real while we are inside it, how can we be certain that waking life is not another layer of the same? This is the classic question raised by Descartes, by Eastern mystics, and by modern simulation theorists alike. The inner portal reveals the instability of what we call real, reminding us that perception is always a threshold, never the final ground. The line between imagination and reality, between thought and world, is not as clear as we might believe. But these inner portals also carry danger. Just as mythical doorways warned of enchantment and loss, the portals of the psyche can entrap. Memory can become obsession, trapping us in cycles of regret or longing. Imagination can spiral into delusion, blurring the difference between possibility and falsehood. Dreams can haunt us, confusing night and day. Even meditation, if pursued without grounding, can fragment the self rather than unify it. The inner portals, like their cosmic or mythical counterparts, require courage, wisdom, and balance to navigate. And yet, hope shines through them as well. These portals are the reason we create, the reason we love, the reason we endure. Without memory, we would have no continuity. Without imagination, no progress. Without dreams, no renewal. Without altered states of awareness, no expansion beyond the narrow confines of habit. The very fact that portals exist within us shows that we are not static beings locked in a single reality. We are travelers, explorers, beings built to cross thresholds, both inner and outer. As this section closes, we return to the central question. If the cosmos holds portals in its fabric, then are our inner portals reflections of that same structure? Is the human mind not merely a receiver of reality but a microcosm of it, capable of bending time, shaping possibilities, and glimpsing worlds unseen? Perhaps the portals within are not just metaphors but rehearsals, preparing us for the greater crossings yet to come. To enter them is to confront both our fragility and our boundless potential. The mind itself may be the ultimate frontier, a labyrinth of thresholds waiting for those bold enough to step through. Civilization has always been defined by its relationship to thresholds. From the moment early humans painted on cave walls, they marked a passage, not just into art, but into a new way of seeing the world. The history of humanity is, in many ways, the history of portals. Not literal doors shimmering with light, but technological, cultural, and intellectual gateways that opened into new realities. When fire was harnessed, it was a portal from darkness into illumination, from fear into mastery. When writing was invented, it was a portal from fleeting memory into permanent history, from oral tradition into recorded civilization. And when the printing press arrived, it was a threshold into a world where ideas could travel faster than armies, where revolutions began not with swords but with words. Technology itself is the recurring metaphor of portals. Every breakthrough is a crossing, a step into landscapes previously unimaginable. The telescope, for instance, was not just glass and lenses, it was a doorway into the cosmos. Galileo, peering through that crude instrument, stepped into a reality where moons circled Jupiter, where the heavens were not perfect spheres but chaotic systems. Likewise, the microscope was a portal downward, into a universe teeming with life too small for the naked eye. Suddenly, the world was laid, brimming with hidden dimensions. Each invention extended the human gaze, multiplying our thresholds into new worlds. Consider electricity. When it first hummed through cities, streets glowed as if the night itself had been peeled away. To the people of that age, it must have seemed like stepping into an enchanted realm. Radio, then television, and eventually the internet, each one a portal altering how humans connected, dreamed, and defined themselves. With each crossing, society was reshaped. These were not abstract ideas but lived experiences of transformation. The awe of hearing a voice carried across oceans, the wonder of seeing images flicker into motion, the shock of conversing with someone across the world in real time. Every leap carried the same emotional cocktail: fear of the unknown, wonder at the possible, and the irreversible pull into the new. But the portal of technology carries shadows too. The same inventions that expanded horizons often unleashed chaos. The printing press spread knowledge, but also propaganda. Electricity powered light, but also weapons. The atom split open the threshold of energy, but also revealed humanity's capacity for annihilation. Technology is always a double-edged portal, hope and danger bound together. This tension, this contrast, is what gives the narrative of human progress its drama. The doorway never opens onto pure paradise or pure destruction. It opens onto both, demanding choice, demanding wisdom. Today, the newest portals stand at the edge of the digital and the biological. Artificial intelligence, virtual reality, genetic engineering, each promises thresholds into realities that blur the line between science and myth. Virtual reality is already a literal portal of perception, transporting users into simulated worlds as convincing as dreams. Artificial intelligence is a portal into minds not our own, reflections of human thought reshaped by algorithms. Genetic engineering is a portal into rewriting life itself, no longer bound by the slow pace of evolution. These are not distant possibilities, they are the thresholds of our present moment, shimmering before us like doors we hesitate to push open. Cinematic imagery captures this with startling force. Picture a scholar in ancient Mesopotamia scratching cuneiform symbols onto clay, the camera zooming outward until it dissolves into rows of digital code scrolling across a modern screen. Imagine a spark of fire crackling in a cave, transforming into the glow of an electric bulb, which flickers again into the neon pulse of a cyberpunk city. Visualize a medieval monk illuminating a manuscript, the ink glowing gold, morphing into a child swiping a glowing tablet in the dark. These transitions show that human history is not a straight line but a series of portals, each one reshaping what it means to live, to think, to dream. Philosophy adds another layer. Are we discovering portals, or are we building them? Is the universe offering thresholds we stumble upon, or do we carve them into existence through curiosity and ambition? Perhaps both. The cosmos gives us the raw material, fire, atoms, energy, and our minds shape it into doors. Yet once opened, these doors are irreversible. You cannot invent writing, see the stars, or know the atom. Portals, once crossed, change the traveler forever. Humanity itself is the traveler, stumbling forward, often blind, but always crossing. The emotional weight here is immense. On one side lies nostalgia, the longing for simplicity before the portal was opened. On the other side lies anticipation, the hunger for what might be. Between them lies anxiety, for every threshold holds risk. Will AI elevate or enslave us? Will genetic engineering heal or corrupt? Will digital worlds enrich reality or replace it entirely? These are the questions every age asks in its own form, for every portal is a gamble. And yet, without portals, there is no story of humanity at all. We are a species defined by crossing thresholds, by refusing to remain in one world when we sense the possibility of another. Firelight to starlight, papyrus to servers, stone tools to spacecraft, the arc of our story is a series of doorways flung open by restless hands. Each time we step through, we leave something behind, but we also become something new. As this section closes, one truth lingers: portals are not only out there in the cosmos, nor only within the psyche. They are etched into history itself, waiting for each generation to step through. And as the next threshold looms, shimmering with both promise and peril, we must ask the question every traveler faces before the crossing: are we ready? Humanity's story with portals is not only scientific or mythical, it is spiritual. Across civilizations, across centuries, human beings have long believed in gateways between the material world and the divine, between the visible and the invisible. Where science speaks of wormholes and technology speaks of circuits, religion speaks of sacred doors, ascensions, descents, and veils torn away. These portals are not measured in equations but in faith, ritual, and revelation. To enter them is to step beyond the ordinary into the eternal, where time, space, and self dissolve into something vaster. In Christianity, the idea of portals echoes through scripture and symbol. The heavens are described as opening, with angels ascending and descending ladders of light. Jacob's ladder is not just a dream but a threshold, a vision of a world where divine beings move between realms. The veil of the temple, torn at the crucifixion, symbolizes another portal, the barrier between the sacred and the profane ripped open, granting humanity direct access to the divine. Each image speaks of thresholds, moments when eternity breaks into time, when the infinite touches the finite. In Islam, too, the Prophet Muhammad's night journey, Isra and Mi'raj, describes a portal unlike any other. Transported first from Mecca to Jerusalem, then ascending through the heavens themselves, he meets prophets, angels, and finally stands before the presence of the divine. The story is a vision of a spiritual portal, both vertical and infinite, not bound by earthly rules but guided by divine will. It reminds believers that the universe itself is layered, and that reality is more than the material plane we inhabit. Hinduism envisions portals in the cosmic dance of creation and dissolution. Temples are designed as thresholds between human space and sacred space, with gates and doorways carefully aligned to reflect cosmic order. The concept of moksha, liberation from the cycle of rebirth, is itself a portal, not into another place but into the ultimate reality beyond time and form. The Ganges River is not merely water but a living passage, a liminal place where the mortal world and divine blessing intersect. Buddhism speaks of portals in terms of enlightenment. The very moment of awakening, when Siddhartha became the Buddha under the Bodhi tree, is a passage into a new reality. Here, the threshold is not external but internal, a door that opens when ignorance dissolves, revealing the truth of existence. Mandalas, with their intricate geometry, are visual maps of this crossing. To meditate upon them is to journey inward, passing through concentric gates until reaching the still center, the timeless state of nirvana. Shamanic traditions echo this deeply. In countless indigenous cultures, shamans enter altered states through drumming, chanting, or plant medicines, journeying through invisible doorways into spirit realms. There, they meet ancestors, animal guides, or forces of nature, returning with visions and healing. These journeys are not considered fantasies but real passages, portals traversed not by body but by spirit. The drumbeat itself becomes a key, a rhythm that unlocks the threshold. Cinematic imagery brings these portals to life vividly. Imagine a temple gate at sunrise, golden light spilling through carved stone as worshippers step barefoot across its threshold. Picture a shaman seated by firelight, eyes closed, while the flames shimmer into a cosmic tunnel of stars spiraling upward. Envision a monk in meditation, his breath slowing, as the walls of his monastery dissolve into boundless space glowing with infinite light. These scenes capture the emotion of the spiritual portal, reverence, awe, the trembling sense of touching the eternal. Yet these sacred portals carry tension, too. They promise transcendence but warn of danger. Scriptures speak of visions that overwhelm mortals, of divine presences that can shatter the unprepared. Just as scientific portals risk paradoxes, spiritual portals risk dissolution of self. The contrast here is powerful, the yearning for union with the divine, balanced against the fear of losing identity, of being consumed by something infinite. To step through is to surrender. Philosophically, spiritual portals raise profound questions. Are these gateways real in a metaphysical sense, or are they metaphors for inner transformation? When mystics describe being transported into realms of light, are they traveling across dimensions, or are they encountering states of consciousness? Perhaps the distinction does not matter, for the experience itself transforms lives, inspires civilizations, and anchors cultures in meaning. The portal is real not because it can be measured, but because it shapes human destiny. And in the modern world, these ancient portals still resonate. Pilgrims walk through sacred doors during jubilees in Catholic cathedrals. Millions circle the Kaaba, passing through a spiritual axis set to connect earth and heaven. Temples across Asia invite worshippers to step barefoot into realms of silence and incense. Even outside formal religion, people still seek sacred crossings, whether in nature, in art, or in moments of awe that dissolve the boundaries of the self. The longing for a portal to the transcendent is timeless, universal, unquenchable. As this section closes, the weight of sacred portals lingers. They remind us that beyond science and technology, beyond myths and imagination, lies the deepest human hunger, the desire to touch the infinite. To step through such a threshold is not to enter another place but to enter another state of being. And perhaps, in the grand tapestry of portals, these are the most enduring of all, the gateways that whisper of eternity, that remind us we are not merely travelers through space and time, but seekers of the divine. The 20th and 21st centuries have brought portals out of myth and scripture into the laboratories and imaginations of modern science. What was once the domain of shamans, prophets, and dreamers has now become the territory of physicists, engineers, and futurists. The language has shifted from gods and spirits to equations and particles, yet the essence remains the same. Humanity is still asking, is there a passage from here to there, from what is to what could be? Only now, the tools are telescopes, particle accelerators, and simulations powerful enough to model entire universes. Einstein's general theory of relativity opened one of the most audacious possibilities, the wormhole. A theoretical tunnel through spacetime, connecting distant points as though the cosmos itself could fold like paper. For decades, these structures remained mathematical curiosities, elegant but untested. Yet they stirred the imagination. What if one could step into such a tunnel and emerge light years away, or even in a different universe altogether? Wormholes became the scientific counterpart to ancient gates, their mathematics echoing myths of ladders to heaven and bridges across worlds. Quantum mechanics added its own strange flavor to the portal story. Particles that exist in multiple states at once, entangled pairs that mirror each other across vast distances, and probability waves collapsing at the moment of observation. Each discovery seemed less like a machine and more like a keyhole into reality's hidden chambers. The double-slit experiment, where particles behave differently when observed, raised a chilling possibility. Consciousness itself might be part of the mechanism that unlocks the universe's doors. Could the act of perception itself be a kind of portal, opening realities that otherwise remain sealed? Modern cosmology expanded the stage even further. The concept of the multiverse, an endless ocean of bubble universes, each with its own laws, turns our universe into just one room in an infinite mansion. Theoretical physicists speculate that collisions between universes, or subtle quantum fluctuations, could open cracks between them. In this sense, our cosmos might not be sealed but porous, with hidden thresholds flickering at the edges of perception. If wormholes are the doorways, the multiverse is the vast hallway stretching beyond. Technology, too, has begun experimenting with portal-like experiences. CERN's Large Hadron Collider was never designed as a stargate, but its ability to smash particles at unimaginable energies has inspired rumors of microportals, tiny windows into dimensions curled up at scales smaller than atoms. Virtual reality offers another frontier, not by bending spacetime but by immersing human consciousness in convincingly alternate worlds. While VR is not a literal portal, the effect on the human mind, the sense of leaving one reality and entering another, evokes the same ancient awe. Yet each breakthrough carries shadows. Wormholes, if they exist, might collapse instantly, crushing anything that enters. Quantum portals may be one way, never letting travelers return. Even simulations raise ethical fears. If our consciousness can step into artificial realities, who controls the keys? Are we explorers of new frontiers, or prisoners inside illusions crafted by others? The same desire that drives us toward portals can also lead us into traps, where the cost of entry may be our autonomy, or even our humanity. Contrast intensifies when science brushes against philosophy. If a wormhole exists, is it simply a tunnel through space, or is it a challenge to our very concept of time? General relativity suggests that traveling through certain wormholes could allow time travel, raising paradoxes that stretch reason to breaking. Imagine meeting your past self, or stepping into a future where your choices no longer matter because they are already made. Is the portal a liberation from time, or its final prison? Cinematic imagination thrives on these modern scientific ideas. Films like Interstellar and Contact depict wormholes as shimmering corridors of light, gateways to distant galaxies or higher beings. Meanwhile, scientific visualization software generates its own images, warped grids of spacetime, particles flashing like fireflies as they collide, universes budding like soap bubbles from a cosmic froth. These visuals are not just science, they are invitations, whispers of what it might look like to step through the unthinkable. And in laboratories today, small but real experiments hint at doors not yet fully understood. Quantum teleportation has been demonstrated with particles, where information jumps from one place to another without crossing the space between. Though far from teleporting humans, it shows that the universe allows shortcuts, rules that seem impossible until they suddenly work. These sparks of possibility ignite the imagination. If particles can move this way, could minds, energy, or even whole beings one day follow? The modern scientific pursuit of portals is more than curiosity, it is a mirror of human longing. Just as shamans sought to heal through spirit journeys, scientists now seek to extend the reach of humanity through spacetime journeys. Both are driven by the same hunger, to overcome separation, distance, and mortality. Where one speaks of sacred drums and visions, the other speaks of equations and experiments. Yet both gaze at the same horizon, whispering the same question, what lies beyond the door? And so we find ourselves on the edge of a threshold once again, standing between imagination and evidence. Portals may remain theory, or they may one day become technology. Either way, they remind us that the universe is not flat and final but alive with mysteries, beckoning us to search, to risk, to dream. In this pursuit, science does not kill wonder, it fuels it, pushing us toward discoveries that echo the myths of old but are grounded in the fabric of spacetime itself. Humanity's fascination with portals is inseparable from the stories we tell, the art we create, and the dreams we dare to dream. Every culture, every era, every mind has imagined a doorway to another reality, a place where the rules of ordinary life no longer apply. Yet while myths and science have explored these thresholds, art has made them tangible, turning abstract possibility into sensory experience. Cinema, literature, painting, and music allow us to walk through portals without leaving our seats, to feel the awe, the terror, the wonder of stepping into the unknown. In this sense, storytelling is a portal itself, a bridge connecting imagination with perception, emotion with cognition, possibility with experience. Consider the cinematic portal. In films that explore time, space, or consciousness, we witness thresholds that shimmer, bend, and ripple. A character steps through a wardrobe into a fantastical kingdom, enters a wormhole to distant galaxies, or closes their eyes only to awaken in a dreamscape where past and future collide. These visual metaphors capture the essence of portals: transformation, uncertainty, and revelation. The camera becomes a guide, the music a heartbeat, and the audience a traveler. Each scene is designed to provoke awe and curiosity, evoking both fear of the unknown and the thrill of discovery. Literature, too, offers portals with unmatched intimacy. In novels, the mind becomes the doorway. Consider the journey through memory and imagination in Proust's works, where a taste, a smell, or a word can unfold entire worlds lost to time. Or Lewis Carroll's Alice, whose fall through the rabbit hole is both physical and psychological, a plunge into a realm governed by dream logic rather than reality. Writers construct portals not from steel or starlight, but from language, carefully arranging words to open doors in the mind's eye. Through literature, readers cross thresholds into alternate experiences, exploring lives, eras, and worlds far beyond their own. Artistic portals extend beyond narrative. Visual art can capture thresholds in static form, a painting of a doorway half hidden in shadow, a sculpture suggesting motion through empty space, a photograph where light spills like liquid across a surface. Music, too, functions as a portal. A melody can transport a listener to a memory long forgotten, or evoke landscapes that exist nowhere in the physical world. Abstract compositions open doors in perception itself, where the mind fills gaps, projects meaning, and enters spaces imagined rather than seen. Art, in every medium, embodies the principle that portals are as much emotional as physical. Philosophically, the portal in art represents the intersection of the known and unknown. It is the liminal space where boundaries blur. Time becomes fluid, identity becomes mutable, reality becomes flexible. By engaging with these artistic thresholds, humans rehearse the act of crossing, confronting uncertainty in a controlled, symbolic environment. The artist offers the portal, but the experience belongs to the observer. This dynamic mirrors the universe itself. Portals may exist independently, but they are realized only when a traveler dares to step through. Modern digital media multiplies the number of portals exponentially. Virtual reality, augmented reality, and interactive simulations create environments that respond to choice and perception. Users navigate spaces that would have been unimaginable to previous generations, entire cities, alien worlds, or abstract landscapes generated in real time. Here, technology and art merge, producing portals that are simultaneously visual, tactile, and cognitive. They offer immersion in ways literature or film alone cannot, making the crossing almost literal in sensory experience. Yet, as with all portals, the danger of disorientation or over-reliance exists, reminding us that every threshold carries both opportunity and risk. Cinematic portals often emphasize contrast, a hallmark of high engagement. Light and shadow, silence and sound, stillness and motion are manipulated to heighten emotional tension. Consider a scene where a character steps through a threshold into a world of color and wonder after a life in monochrome. The contrast amplifies the feeling of crossing, of entering a realm fundamentally different from the one left behind. Similarly, horror films often invert this. A threshold appears ordinary, but crossing it leads into terror, suspense, or revelation. Contrast is not only a narrative device, it is central to the emotional architecture of the portal itself. Artistic portals also serve as mirrors. They force the traveler to confront themselves, their fears, desires, and limits. Stepping into a portal in a story or painting is rarely passive. It invites reflection, interpretation, and transformation. The portal is both door and teacher, testing the observer's imagination, empathy, and courage. In this way, portals are deeply human constructs, revealing as much about the traveler as about the world beyond. The emotional resonance of artistic portals is profound. Awe, wonder, dread, and hope are all elicited in a single crossing. A well-crafted portal scene can linger in the mind for years, shaping perception, influencing dreams, and even altering behavior. These thresholds allow us to explore what could be, practice resilience, and imagine solutions to dilemmas otherwise confined to reality. In essence, art trains the mind to navigate the unknown, cultivating both curiosity and courage. Finally, the synthesis of science, myth, and art reveals the universal appeal of portals. Whether through physics, folklore, or imagination, humans have always been drawn to thresholds that promise transformation. Art crystallizes these experiences, giving them form, motion, and emotion, and allowing generations to step through without risk. It reminds us that portals are not only theoretical or spiritual, they are experimental. They are the bridge between what is, what was, and what could be. As this section concludes, the role of portals in human creativity becomes clear. They are both destination and journey, object and experience, metaphor and reality. Through art, literature, and digital innovation, humans continue to explore thresholds, rehearsing crossings, encountering wonders, and returning changed. In every painting, novel, film, or simulation, the portal waits, inviting the bold to step forward, to explore, and to transform. The frontier of portals stretches ever forward, and in the contemporary era, it is defined by the intersection of consciousness, technology, and the universe itself. We have traveled from myth to science, from imagination to spirituality, tracing thresholds across every domain of human experience. Yet now, the story turns toward the cutting edge, where portals are no longer merely theoretical or symbolic, they are emerging realities, glimpsed through experiments, innovations, and daring hypotheses. Here, the stakes are higher, the potential to traverse dimensions, to manipulate space and time, and to access realms previously relegated to dream or legend. The narrative tension sharpens, as hope, fear, and awe collide at the threshold of discovery. Quantum physics offers the first concrete glimpses of portals in action. Phenomena such as quantum entanglement, superposition, and tunneling suggest that particles can behave in ways that defy classical logic, effectively stepping from one state or location to another without traversing intervening space. Quantum teleportation experiments, while currently limited to subatomic particles, demonstrate that the universe allows shortcuts, connections that resemble the archetypal portals of myth. If scaled, such phenomena hint at the possibility of information, energy, or even matter crossing boundaries that were once thought impassable. These scientific thresholds are both awe-inspiring and terrifying, for they challenge the very laws we rely upon to make sense of reality. Simultaneously, neuroscience is revealing portals within the brain itself. The human mind is capable of extraordinary perception, altering subjective experience of time, space, and identity. Meditation, deep focus, and psychedelic states all act as gateways, shifting consciousness into alternate modes of perception. In these altered states, individuals report experiences remarkably similar to the traversal of mythical or cosmic portals, feelings of unity with the universe, encounters with otherworldly presences, or journeys through timeless landscapes. Science now confirms what mystics and shamans have long known: the mind is a threshold, a portal to dimensions both internal and external, bridging subjective and objective reality. Technological innovation adds yet another layer. Virtual reality, augmented reality, and neural interfaces allow humans to inhabit entirely new perceptual worlds. Unlike traditional portals and stories, these gateways are deliberately constructed, responsive, and interactive. Users can navigate environments governed by laws of physics entirely of the designer's choosing, creating experiences that challenge memory, expectation, and cognition. These digital thresholds are portals to possibility itself, realms where imagination becomes tangible, and where the boundary between observer and environment dissolves. Here, hope and fear intertwine, the exhilaration of boundless exploration tempered by the disorientation of disconnection from physical reality. At the cosmic scale, astrophysics provides portals that are both literal and metaphorical. Black holes, neutron stars, and the curvature of spacetime itself suggest thresholds beyond which normal rules cease to apply. Wormholes, once theoretical curiosities, are now treated as mathematically plausible structures that could connect distant regions of the universe, or even separate universes. Stepping through such a portal is not just a matter of transportation, it is a confrontation with the fabric of reality itself. The contrast between the familiar and the alien, the known and the incomprehensible, creates a cinematic tension that resonates as deeply in the mind as it does in the imagination. Cinematic visualization captures this in vivid detail. Picture a spacecraft approaching a black hole, the surrounding stars bending and stretching as spacetime itself warps. Imagine a researcher immersed in a neural interface, surrounded by shifting patterns of light representing thought itself. Visualize a particle leaping between states, a bridge of energy flickering in a lab as if a miniature doorway to the unknown had opened. Each scene embodies the emotional core of the portal: wonder, dread, curiosity, and transformation. These images remind us that the act of crossing, whether literal or metaphorical, is always both perilous and transcendent. Philosophically, the convergence of these portals challenges our most basic assumptions. If consciousness, technology, and the universe itself offer thresholds, then reality is not a fixed stage but a dynamic landscape, awaiting traversal. We must reconsider the self. Are we passengers, explorers, or architects of the portals we encounter? If information and matter can leap across dimensions, if perception can alter experience, then the line between observer and participant blurs. Portals are not merely physical phenomena, they are catalysts for transformation, demanding courage, wisdom, and imagination to navigate responsibly. Ethically, these new portals raise urgent questions. Who controls access? What risks are acceptable? How do we balance exploration with preservation? A quantum experiment could reveal insights that change civilization. A neural interface could expand consciousness or destabilize identity. A digital world could become refuge or prison. The portals of the contemporary era are inseparable from the responsibilities of the traveler. The allure of crossing is matched by the weight of consequence, amplifying emotional engagement and tension. Hope threads through these possibilities. Human curiosity has always driven us toward thresholds, from fire to telescopes, from dreams to quantum labs. Each portal crossed brings not only knowledge but growth, resilience, and a deeper understanding of what it means to exist. The contemporary frontier continues this trajectory, merging imagination, science, and philosophy into experiences that redefine our perception of reality. The unknown calls, shimmering like a door half open, daring us to step forward. As this section closes, one idea remains clear: portals are no longer solely myth or theory. They are emerging realities, within the mind, within the machine, and across the cosmos. The challenge is to navigate them wisely, to embrace the wonder without succumbing to fear, and to recognize that every threshold we cross reshapes both the world and ourselves. The frontier is vast, the portals infinite, and the journey only just beginning.